Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and this is love, baby. I sought him whom my soul loves. So we're finally back to the book Acharit Kereshit, although the teachings in between were very necessary. And boy, I had to add a whole bunch of add-ons in the end to this, but some crazy times right now. Anyway, as we discussed a few weeks ago, this subject matter is the very topic that got me into the teaching of the 13 principles of mercy to begin with. I gave you that preface over there. And just a quick refresher, a quick reminder regarding ahava, love. Ahava is the numerical value of 13, right? When a boy turns 13, he mekabel al atzmo ol mitzvot. Ol is the, the yoke of mitzvot, 13, right? One, love, ahava, is echad. Hashem echad u'shmo echad. Two loves is 26. That is the Yud K Vav K. Three loves is 39. The 39 avot melacha, lametet avot melacha, forms of work that they did to build the Mishkan, from which we learn how to properly keep and guard the Shabbat. I'm going to say this now and then mention it later again. Technology on Shabbat breaks these things. So if you use technology on Shabbat, you are breaking the Shabbat, according to the Torah, period. Okay? If you're not a Jew, don't worry about it. But if you are, that's between you and him. In addition to 39, lametet, backwards, it's actually tal, which means it's also 39, numerical value. Tal is the dew. And what is the dew? This is the same tal which God will use to resurrect the dead. And yes, of course, they are all related. The building of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, Mishkan is the place of the Shechina, the dwelling place of the Shechina, the keeping of the Shabbat, and the resurrection of the dead. They're all one and the same. Four loves is 52, and that is the numerical value of Ben, son, as in Israel is God's firstborn son, Exodus 4:22. So now these are all fun and cool things to note, and it's very important that you do know them. But also very important to boost our belief that God's word is perfect, as well as understanding that if you do not have the Hebrew, none of this is relevant, which is why so many of you are out there and you're learning the Hebrew and you're breaking your teeth, and excellent, and now you get it. And I'm getting those emails that it opens up a whole new world for you. Start slowly. It's okay. Learn the Aleph Bet, the alphabet, the Aleph Bet, and then you'll see what it does, because every single letter in the Hebrew alphabet has a meaning. They're all connected. They're all made up of yuds and vavs, zeros and ones, if you will. Anyway, maybe we'll actually, you know what? We're going to give a class about that. I think it's wonderful, but we will. Okay, anyway. So, the very practical sense, this is how we can use love in order to hasten the redemption. This is why we're here right now. Again, we want to hasten the redemption to bring the Geula Shlema Berachamim, mercy. And love is just another ingredient. Because we've been learning from past teachings that it is Israel's responsibility to use all the tools at our disposal in order to help God with his plan. But more specifically, in order for us to align ourselves with his will, so our correction through judgment will be kept to a minimum. Because again, nobody's perfect. It says even tzaddikim, righteous, they fall, but then they get up, right? The falling is part of the process. And again, tshuva, which is the entire purpose of everything, is by which the world stands, it is tshuva, that's one of the commands. It's one of the 613 commands. So if you never sinned, how can you come back from the sin? Therefore, it's almost like you are expected to sin, so you can come back stronger and better. So, we found that Israel must awaken God's love in order to redeem them, us. As we read in Tikkunei Zohar, number 30, the second command which was mentioned in the account of creation. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Vayomer Elohim yehi or, vayehi or. And this love is the love of chesed, mercy. Do you see the connection already here? We were talking about the 13 principles of mercy and Echad and the Son and the 13. Anyway, they're all connected. again, you need the Hebrew for the gematria here. As written in Jeremiah 31:2, from long ago the Lord appeared to me, with everlasting love have I loved you. Therefore I have drawn you to me with loving kindness. Now I got to read this in the Hebrew. Merachok Hashem nira'ali, ve'ahavat olam ahavtich, al ken meshachtich chesed, mercy, Abraham. Of which it is written in Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, that you neither awaken nor arouse the love until it is desirous. I know it's a different translation, even in the proper English translations. Im ta'iru ve'im to'oru et ahava ad shetechpatz, but it's okay. I'm here. Fear, yira'ah, or reverence, is called from the left side, right? That's the judgment side. And love is called from the right. Now, there still has to be a balance. Now, there is fear, and there is fear. And there is love, and there is love. We're going to learn the difference. There is fear that man fears from his Creator, that he should not lose money, or that his sons should not die in his lifetime, right? Because it's always a tragedy if a parent has to bury a child. It should be the other way around, ideally. Which means that if the man did not lose his money, or his sons did not die in his lifetime, then he wouldn't fear God. This is why he also has love for God. You need both of them because of his love for money. This is the same concept we discussed just before regarding joy in the last teaching. Joy is not something that is conditional, not something that should be conditional. Otherwise, it's happiness. It's how you feel right now. Neither should fear or love be something conditional, but we'll see this soon. So this type of fear and love is obviously not conditional, which is why this type of fear and love is called al menat lekabel pras, in order to receive a reward. But the main focus of love and fear is between good and evil, which is why God said in Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs 2:7, and now for the full verse, Hishbati etchem bnot Yerushalayim bitzvaot uvayalot hasadeh, Im ta'iru ve'im to'oru et ahava ad shetechpatz. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the hinds, thank you for that, by the hinds of the field, that you neither awaken nor arouse the love until it is desirous. And that love that must be aroused is the love not in order to receive reward, until God says that it is desirous. Now this could be likened to doing the right thing in the wrong time, or the wrong thing in the right time. Either way, you're doing it because you think that you are pleasing God, and yet He never said that you should do it or anything like it. That's why the Torah said in Deuteronomy, you should not add or take away. This was my earlier issues with the whole Messianic movement, is that you do whatever seems right to you because I want to please God. But God didn't say that. And then disobedience, right? So then what goes? It's how you feel. And now we talk to feelings, which are fickle, right? So we're hopefully shaking everything out, and all the garbage is going to fall away, and you're going to be stuck with the truth. Because it's not according to your understanding, i.e., lean not on your own understanding. It is according to the will of God and the expressed commands of God. It's called disobedience, and there is no room for it in God's kingdom. Well, I feel like doing this or I feel like doing that. How many times did I have conversations with you guys? If you're not Jews, you shouldn't be doing commands that Jews are commanded to do. You are not supposed to be keeping Shabbat like a Jew. Sure, of course, rest on Shabbat. But the mitzvot for Shabbat, that Beini uben bnei Israel, it's written right there in black and white in the Torah. Putting on tefillin, exclusively for Jews, and so on and so forth. So again, if you feel like it is in your heart to do these things, then convert and do them properly. Otherwise, you are being disobedient to the very Torah and the very God that you say that you follow. Hypocrisy, right? We got to learn how to do everything correctly. Otherwise, we're not doing correctly at all. So we got to shed everything. In the Gra's commentary regarding that verse, he says, Im ta'iru ve'im to'oru, that you neither awaken nor arouse. This is ketz hayamin, the end of the right. as in Daniel 12:13. V'ata lech tanuach, lech laketz v'tanuach v'tamod legoralcha leketz hayamin. And you go to the end and you'll rest and rise to your lot at the end of the days. Now, I understand it says the English says the end of the days, right? But that should be in the Hebrew, ketz hayamim. Ketz is end, yamim is days. But it actually says in the Hebrew, ketz, end, hayamin, the right, the end of the right. And we discussed this in the past, right? Right is love and mercy, while left is judgment and fear or reverence. So the end of the right is in fact the end of days, but since the right is mentioned, the angel Gabriel is telling Daniel that he will be resurrected, which is mercy, at the end of days. And you will rise on the right side at the end of days. In other words, you're coming and it's all good. Don't worry about it. Go rest right now. It's the little things that you have to pay attention to that make all the difference. Now look at what it says in Lamentations 2:3. Chapter 2, verse 3. Gada b'charei af kol keren Yisrael heshiv achor yemino. Mipnei oyev vayiv'ar beYaakov ke'esh lava achlas aviv. He has cut down the fierce anger of all the strength of Israel. He has withdrawn his right hand. What happens when God withdraws his right hand? His right hand is what shields Israel from the enemy, and he has burned in Jacob like a flaming fire, consuming all around. And this is the light that was retracted. As it says in Tikkun number 37, it all has to do with love, not for the sake of reward. It also says in Pirkei Avot 5:1, if you guys got, the big green book, Antigonus, a man of Sokoh, received from Shimon the righteous, from Shimon HaTzadik. He would say, do not be like servants who attend upon their master only on the condition that they receive a reward. Rather, be like servants who attend upon their master only on the condition that they do not receive a reward. You see, if we had any idea what's really going on, the understanding would be very simple. Otherwise, how could we possibly serve our master purely? Because clearly it said all over the Torah that you will receive reward for being obedient, right? Do this, you'll see a great reward, and all the things. Okay, so wait, am I doing it for a reward, or am I not doing it for a reward? So how do we get around that, which God says, do this and you'll get this? Oh, I'm doing it, but not for this, but you said if I do this and I get this, you're putting it in my face, God, so how can I ignore that? So how really do we get around that in order to make it authentic possible, serving our master not in order to receive the reward, but out of true love, which transcends everything? Now the answer is right in the description. Do what you are told when you are told to do it. That is love, i.e. obedience. Not what you think, not how you feel, but how God says it is. And again, by going back to this, and this seems to be the theme, recognize who you are and where you stand, right? If you are a Jew, there are things that you have to do. But if you are not a Jew, you could call yourself Israel all day. Again, I say this because people still don't really get it. You could call yourself Israel all day, but if you are not Israel and you act like Israel, you are being extremely disobedient and you will be judged accordingly. If you are for real Israel, meaning if you're a Jew and you're not living like a Jew, oh boy, are you going to be judged. So again, by doing what our Father says, that is loving Him. And we will get into this because it's not like Hollywood love like you think that you know. Now, because it all, although it may not make sense to you when you're doing it, and although you may want to do everything right away, there is an order to things which I am desperately trying to teach you guys. I'm happy to say, though, that I believe that most of you guys get it, while there are still a few it doesn't register. I'm at a loss, I'll be honest with you. Some just do not understand. I've tried to explain it. It's the same concept of, you see what's going on in the world today, right? Let me be as cryptic as I can be here while you'll still understand. The problem in the world today, which we know where we know where it began, and the people who started it are the same people that gave us the magic cure. You see, in other words, you're being played from all angles. Some people will be like, yeah, I don't need no magic cure because I clearly see where they both came from, where they both originated from. I realize that I'm being played. While most of the world do not get this. You will show them facts in front of their face and they do not get it. So in this case, most of the people who are learning Torah or their version of Torah will not see what I'm telling you here. They'll just like, So you're saying, no, I'm not saying anything but what I'm showing you. Straight up Torah. That's it. And they just don't get it. So this is the equivalent of, it's like either you see it or you don't. And if you see it, praise God every day that you can. For Tikkun 38, the Gra comments regarding Song of Songs 8:6. Simeni kachotam alibecha kachotam al zorecha ki azza chamavet ahava kasha kishol kin'a reshapea rishpei shalhevetia. It's a powerful verse. Place me like a seal on your heart, like a seal on your arm. This is the tefillin. We put the tefillin on our left arm and the box is facing our hearts. This is mamash, the seal. For love is as strong as death. Zeal is as strong as the grave. Its coals are coals of fire, of great flame. It is said over there that if Israel arouses this love before its time, they have to be ready for the time, otherwise nothing will happen, which is why we have been warned about arousing this love before its time. Okay, I want to bring Mashiach now, but now's not the time. You have to recognize. One day I'll tell you about the story of this rabbi that tried to do that and what happened, which is why this love must be aroused through fear and mercy, both together. This is also why the end is constantly being pushed off, because God wants the optimal conditions until that time. As we discussed, if the redemption were to come sooner, yet Israel would not be ready for it, we would all perish, which is why God postpones it again and again and again to give us the opportunity to prepare. And every time it's being postponed, there are hardships that come upon us, because if we don't do tshuva, when a person suffers hardships, that is the equivalent of tshuva. You either get it in this world or you go through Gehenna to get cleansed. Nevertheless, you still want it to be in this world, as harsh as it may be. So whatever Israel is going through right now and whatever Israel will go through before the coming of Messiah, know that that is actually mercy and not judgment. You have to understand this, because if God didn't care, it'd be like, here's Messiah. Let's see who can stand. Nobody. However, when it is the time of the end, meaning the clock hits 6,000, even without the arousal of love from our end, love will be aroused. So we are learning here that the revelation of this light all comes down to love with pure intentions, which is the true meaning of fear, but not fear of punishment. The better way to describe this, as we said, it's reverence, to revere God. David said feared the Lord, but he revered God. Why? Because he had a glimpse, a tiny little idea of who or what or how God was. And all I can do is revere God, obviously through love, but fear and trembling as well. There was a very good balance. This means to revere God because you have some sort of understanding how things work. David had a good understanding, and yet compared to how things are, no. Moses had a better understanding, and yet still compared to how God really was, says, no one could see my face and live, my glory and live. You can't, meaning you can't, because you're still physical. You're a physical being. And even after you die, your pure neshama still cannot see my full glory. But in the end, guess what? God's full glory is going to be revealed here. And are we prepared for that? No. If your soul after you die cannot behold God's full glory, how can we in our physical form behold God's full glory when it comes here at the end of days? We won't be able to unless we go through these corrections, you see. Okay. So, where were we? All right. Okay. So we have the left and the right that has to work together. And if we think about it, who does their master's bidding in order to receive reward? Right? Think about it. You're doing work for your master, your boss, in order to receive reward. It's a slave, it's a servant, or it's an employee. Yes, sir, Mr. So-and-so, and if you don't perform well, you don't get your paycheck, or you do get your paycheck, you get fired, whatever. You get you understand the idea. But once we, who are considered slaves to God in this life, reach that time of correction in the end, we will be elevated to the rank of son. Incidentally, the numerical value 52, 4 times love. And I'm sure I gave this class, from servant to son, from son to servant. Look it up. It's from servant to son, I think. Yeah. Anyway, so we can see this in Leviticus 25:55. For the children of Israel are servants to me. Avadim. Avadaihem. They are my servants. And Eved in Hebrew, Eved is slave. They are my slaves, God says. Whom I took out of the land of Egypt, I am the Lord your God. Boom. Signed, sealed, and delivered. And then later in Deuteronomy 14:1, we see something different. You are children of the Lord your God. You shall neither cut yourselves nor make any baldness between your eyes for the dead. This is the whole pagan rituals. This is, I say, paganism and idolatry. I know that right now, at least half of you guys are still there, but you don't even know it. Don't worry, we're working on that too. Banim atem la'Hashem Elohechem. You are the sons of God. This is what it says in Deuteronomy 14:1. So, we are servants, slaves, and sons. How do we arouse the love of God? And also, when do we arouse this love? This all has to do with keeping the covenant, meaning the brit. What brit? Brit milah. So, as in the circumcision. But again, it's not just enough for a doctor to come and cut you over there. It's a whole ritual, and you have to be a Jew to do this. And again, if you're going to go through a conversion, doesn't matter what age you go through it, you're getting a brit milah. Later on, it becomes an actual surgery, because stuff has to happen. You know what I'm saying? All right. So now let's think about this for a moment. We have a servant, we have a son, we have a covenant. Where is all this in one verse? Isaiah 41:8. But you, Israel my servant, Jacob whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham who loved me. V'ata Israel avadi. Avdi, you're my servant. Yaakov asher bacharti, but Jacob who I chose. V'zera Avraham ohavi. Abraham who loved me. So we have the servant Israel, the children of Jacob, and Abraham who loved me. Abraham was the one who the covenant was given to, and God himself said to Abraham, of Abraham, that he loved me. Do you think Abraham loved God so he could receive reward? We know that he couldn't care less about anything other than doing the will of God, the right thing in the right place at the right time. Now, why does it mention Jacob as well? Because the covenant may have begun with Abraham, but Abraham also bore Ishmael, and later Isaac bore Esav. So we continue with Jacob, whom God said that he chose, right? Who is Jacob, i.e. Jacob's trouble? It's the Jews, plain and simple, the most troubled people in the history of the world. End of story. It's not even a competition here. As for Israel, if they do my will, they will be called my servants. But if they cleave to Jacob, who is truth, emet, they will be among those who truly love me and receive my mercy, my chesed, which is the tikkun of Abraham. And when is it time to arouse this love? During the time of the Pekidah, which is exactly where we are currently at. We're in the time of the Pekidah. This is where we arouse God's love. How do you do it? That's what we're doing here. So, what are we doing about this? Have you been doing your homework? Or did life get in the way of that? I hope you've been doing your homework. Part of the trials are to get this done through the troubles and challenges, because we discussed that this is the only way that we will see victory, through the troubles. There's never a right time to do a mitzvah. There's never the ideal time to learn Torah. That's why it says, Likvoa itim la Torah. You must make time for the Torah. In other words, okay, I wake up, I have my own personal time for the Torah. Okay, that's my personal time. You could do it when it's best suited for you, but make sure you stick with it. Make sure you know at this and this time, This is what I'm doing. The world could be burning, and it is, but I'm going to be learning Torah. So, I have to tell you, I wish I had this kind of love that Abraham has right here. I hope and pray that I could say to God that my intentions were 100% pure, or are 100% pure every time I do a mitzvah or something, but I would never dare declare that, okay? I mean, you think you know if your intentions are pure? Even you don't know if your intentions are pure. Only God knows. And this is why it's so important to be as authentic with yourself as possible. Have this conversation with God. Tell Him you don't know. He knows you don't know, but it's about you coming before Him. Therefore, you recognize Him. You recognize Him as your Father, as your Creator, as the Master of the universe. And He knows what's going on with you, but go and tell Him. It's okay. Don't hide from Him. You can hide from God. Don't try to convince yourself either, because then, you're going to look like a fool. And you'll have to give an account for that as well. No, I'm fine. I love God. How many times have we all heard, Holy Spirit dwells inside of me. I feel the Holy Spirit. I guarantee you that person is a liar and a son of a liar. Because no, and even in the Torah, even our greatest of sages, even David HaMelech, the Ruach HaKodesh did not dwell inside him. Nachalav Ruach HaKodesh. When God wanted to communicate with David, the Ruach HaKodesh rested upon him. It gave him the message that he needed, and it lifted. Because a person is not holy all the time. So if you say that Ruach HaKodesh dwells within you all the time, and you do one wrong thing, the smallest, if you have a negative thought, we discussed this, if you see something inappropriate, you think the Ruach HaKodesh is inside you and you feel that ain't the Ruach HaKodesh, okay? You got to get real. So, you have to tell God, converse, I want to love you with all my heart. I say this to God, I want to love you with all my heart. All my soul and every fiber of my being, like I say every day in the Shema. But I don't know how. And I don't know if I am. I don't know if I'm succeeding. Have that conversation. That within itself is love. Because it's honesty. It's truth. I.e. Jacob, emet. You see? Do that. In the Ramchal's Mesilat Yesharim, Path of the Just, chapter 19, he said, but of course one who is motivated when serving the Eternal to purify his soul before his Creator for the privilege of dwelling before Him among the just and pious, to behold the pleasantness of the Eternal, to seek understanding in His temple, and to receive the recompense due in the world to come, will not be regarded as having negative intentions. Okay. On the other hand, we cannot say that this is ideal. For so long as one's intent is subservient to his own personal benefit, then in the final analysis, his divine service is self-serving. You could even say today, for instance, let's say, I know some people, I know a lot of people, but you know some people too. Yourself even, if you feel like you need to do something kind for someone else, right? You go out of your way, and you're like, I need to work in a soup kitchen, okay? I need to go donate my time to this or that. Why are you doing it? Out of love for whoever you have no idea that you're going to help? Out of love for God, because it says V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, and that you should give tzedakah, because tzedakah is not only with money, it's also with your time? Or is it you're doing it for yourself to feel better? So technically speaking, even when you do something kind, within that there are selfish motivations, even if it's the purest thing. When is it not? I think it's when it's the most inconvenient time, and when it comes when you're not even ready for it. So you're not even thinking about it, but you got to do something when it's the worst time for you, and you give up something of yourself because you know it's right, but everything else sucks around it. That, you tell me, what do you think, right? If it's something that's extremely inconvenient for you and you do it anyway, and you do it with love without it being like, okay, fine, but hey, cool. That's the closest that I could possibly comprehend right now. I'm sure there are other levels, but anyway, we'll go with that. Something for you guys to think about. So, we said, for as long as one's intent is subservient to his own personal benefit, then the final analysis of his divine service is self-serving. The true intent, which we find among the pious, who have exerted themselves and made the effort to attain it, is that a person serve the Eternal solely to magnify and enhance the glory of the Master, blessed be He. That's it. I'm doing this for God. Even if no one sees this, right? When you give tzedakah, if I give tzedakah, I'm not saying this to boast, chas v'shalom. I'm saying when I give tzedakah, I go online, there are certain websites that you know that 97% of what you give, it goes to the end party. The 3% is to maintain, the website and the people doing it. I don't know who I'm giving it to, and who receives it. They don't know that they're getting it from me. That's tzedakah. It's different than tithing. Tithing and tzedakah, two different things. You need to do both. So when I give, I don't know who gets it. Okay? So that's, I'm thinking maybe that's something. If this will, this will happen after one deepens his love for the Blessed One be He, and he longs for and yearns for the expansion of His glory, and is saddened over any lessening of it. So when you do give in secret, no cameras around, right? You see on YouTube right now, people filming themselves or people filming other people giving money to the homeless, and like, oh, that guy is so sweet that he did that, right? What are you doing? That's the opposite of humility. But when you give in secret, no one can see you, only God, and you make a statement. I'm doing this for you because there's somebody, you gave this to me to give it to somebody else. There's somebody that needs this. Have those thoughts in mind. I'm trying to, help you rearrange your thought process over here. So I want to remind everyone that we've discussed this concept in the past in the One Love teaching, in the Hope and Longing teaching as well. That's the more recent, and also over the past few months. So this is how we are to serve God wholly and truthfully. How can we yearn for something if we have no points of reference? This is why we learn, and this is why we yearn. Now, to get us out of this trouble, but because we know, and most don't have a clue, so chill, but those that do know that at least we have a glimpse of how things are supposed to be, right? You yearn for Malchut Shamayim, for the kingdom of heaven. What is the kingdom of heaven? Do we have any idea? The more you learn and the more connected you are, you might have a glimpse, you might have an idea, and that is what you yearn for. Because we see, right, today, we see this world is the polar opposite of what the kingdom of heaven is described as we see how Israel lived when Ananei Kavod were over them, as we see how Israel lived and thrived, and the whole world lived and thrived during the days of Solomon when the temple was built. There was peace on earth, this close to a complete Geulah, but it still was not the time. We as Jews pray all the time, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. It was the theme at our wedding, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Renew our days like the days of old. But we don't mean it when we say it. I mean, not everybody. The days of old means there's two times. The first temple period, like we said, it was peace on earth, everything, everywhere. No one was sick, everyone. It was just amazing. And the Garden of Eden. Because the third temple period will be the perfect combination of both, only infinitely better. Because death will be gone. There will be no sin. There will be no fear. There will be no sickness. There will be nothing that is all the negativity, everything that is bad is gone. Because this is the final correction of the world, the Tikkun Olam. This is why I say, if you don't know what you are praying for, then what are you praying for? You have to know. You have to have an idea what you're praying for. If you're praying for yourself to get out of a jam, to get a better life, to not be sick, or to make more money, where in these prayers do we have for the sake of heaven? Right? Nowhere. Unless, see, these are the prayings that we said before Rosh Hashanah. I don't know if I told you this, if I did not, I am sorry, but I believe so. there's certain ways to pray. Everything you ask for, it's great that you ask for, because God wants to give you. But what are you going to do with what he gives you? In other words, God, I would like to have an abundance of finances. Okay, great, son. No, servant, don't worry, I'll pay you your wages if you do your job. You will get paid. But what are you going to do with those wages? You see, I would like more finances so I can help others. Have a plan and watch it actually come into fruition. Obviously, God knows your heart, and make sure you are being sincere. Otherwise, don't do that, because again, who are you lying to? So, this is what we're talking about here. Let's continue. He will then be motivated to serve the eternal for this purpose, that at least through him the glory of the Blessed One will be increased. And he will fervently desire that the whole of mankind be motivated accordingly. You are now becoming that vessel, right? And your vessel has to be ready and cleansed. He will furthermore be saddened and aggrieved over what others subtract from the Eternal's glory, and particularly over what he subtracts, whether unknowingly or accidentally or through his own natural shortcomings, for it is difficult to guard oneself from sin all the time, as it states in Ecclesiastes 7:20. Again, we'll get to that, but when I see my fellow Jews not living properly, again, I'm not judging them. I am the last one to speak, but I get it. I get it because I was there. I'm constantly doing tshuva every day. We do tshuva every night before we go down to sleep. We beat our chests with all the list of all the sins that we might have committed that day. And just in case I'm going to name them, please forgive us for everything we're aware of and everything we are not aware of. It's so important to do tshuva every single day and to constantly build on top of that. So Ecclesiastes 7:20 says, "For there is no righteous man on earth who does good and sins not. Ki adam ein tzadik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yachata." There's no such thing. This dynamic of motivation has been elucidated in Tanada ve'Eliyahu, right? The teachings of Elijah the prophet in Rabbah, the larger part. Number 4, every sage of Israel who truly possesses the words of Torah, here's how it goes, and grieves for the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He, and the glory of Israel throughout his life, and longs for and suffers over the glory of Jerusalem and the glory of the temple and the swift flourishing of the redemption and the ingathering of the exiles, that's you, is granted divine inspiration in his words. I'll say this again because you want divine inspiration in your words, you want your words to actually mean something. Here's what you have to focus on all the time, every day, your entire life, because this is what the sages who are truly connected focused on. They grieved for the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He. Where is God's glory in the world today? Obviously it's here, no one can see it, and you can see by no one seeing it what is going on. The glory of Israel throughout his life. Why are Israel being spat on and other things on? Why are Israel not doing their job? Why are we so divided? Why are we not living the way we are supposed to be living? You grieve for Israel throughout their lives, and longs for and suffers over the glory of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, right? The glory of Jerusalem. Right now, we got a mosque sitting over our Holy of Holies. Are you kidding me? And this is okay? And there are ruins all around there? And I see churches and mosques, and what is happening? It's heartbreaking, but this is where I need to be. And the glory of the temple. Why is the temple not here? It clearly says, just because we're back in the land right now doesn't mean that we're not in exile. If we're back in the land and there's no temple, we are in exile. And the swift flourishing of the redemption, because if the redemption doesn't come swiftly and brachamim, then we're just going to keep dragging out, and how many will survive? How many will be here in the end? And the gathering of the exiles, and this is the gathering of the exiles, is what Anarina and myself are doing. This is what we have been doing. Apparently, right? I want to say we just sort of happened into this. Didn't just happen into it. I mean, there was a process. We've shared it with you. This is not where either of us came from, and yet this is what we're doing right now. So we're going for it. We're doing it. And by doing all these things, we are helping this. So why are we doing this? Why are we trying to teach all those to come in properly, obviously? Because we can't do this without you. Is it self-serving? I mean, maybe in a way, sure. I would like the redemption, b'rachamim, but I also want to help God. Does God need my help? No. But I see what God did in my life, okay? And I realize that He gave me so much goodness when I wasn't deserving. I'm going to get emotional right now. God gave me so much goodness when I was not deserving, when I was in a hole, in a pit. And so when other people are going through these holes and these pits, I want to say it's okay. He gets you out. But you have to be focused and you have to get out of the idolatry, because the idolatry is actually what keeps you there, but you don't know that you are in idolatry and that's why you were there. We got to break that together, okay? Okay, moving along. Is granted divine inspiration in His words. So, are we there yet? Not so much, right? Okay. So from this we learn that the most highly esteemed form of intent is one that is completely divorced from all personal feelings, okay, and is concerned only with the glory of the divine presence and the sanctification of the Blessed One's name, Shem Hashem, Kiddush Hashem, which is sanctified among His creatures when they fulfill His will. Fulfill His will, not fulfill your desire, your urges, your thoughts. Fulfill His will. This is what God esteems on the highest level. Do His will. Do that. Don't worry. But God, I want to do more. I didn't ask you to do more. Do this. This is what you need to do. This is your personal tikkun. Yours, you, with the name on it. I got your name. Here's your tikkun. Do this. No, I want to do that. But then why are you coming to me for help if you're not doing what you need to be doing? Referring to this, they said in Zohar Mishpatim, who is a pious person? One who acts with piety towards his Creator. What do we learn from this? If you pray for what you want, you are on the level of a servant. But if you pray for what God wants, and everything you do revolves around that, you are a son. You see, if you align yourself correctly, you think it's a coincidence, by the way, that my thing is called the Tent of Abraham, who brought in all those to know God, and Anarina's thing is aligned with Zion? Gather in so we could... I mean, you understand? We started this years before we met. This is no coincidence. But one cannot pray for something that they don't know. How are you going to know what to pray for, right? You can say, okay, I'm praying for this or that, but you don't even know what is behind this or that. How can you ask for the things to come if you haven't even learned about them? This is Torah Hasod, the secrets of Torah, also known as Razei Torah. Raz, the secret, the hidden. Why do you think these Kabbalists get so high? Because, right? No. Because they know exactly what to pray for. They have an idea, more so than an idea. Because guess what, Jew? It is your responsibility too. Even if you didn't get to the level yet, and you don't know if your heart is pure, then you pray to be pure so that you can pray for that. You understand? So if you want to get to here, if you want to pray to this, but there are steps, so pray for the next step and the next step and the next step so you can have a clear line of sight. Only with a pure heart can we pray properly. We don't have a pure heart, so pray for a pure heart so you can pray properly. This is the same concept like I said before. If you're asking God for things that are self-serving, don't leave Him out of them. Make a plan how you're going to serve God with those things, and then that will flip. If 10% is for God, i.e. tithing, right? And 90% is for you. And God said, don't, only give me 10%. Actually, at some point it says 20%. But just give me 10%. That's okay. At some point it's going to turn. I'm doing 90% for me, 10% for God. I'm going to do 90% for God, 10% for me. I'm doing 100% for God, and the abundance keeps coming and I can't stop it. See Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you have fear, which we all do, self included, be honest about it and pray for God to take away your fear. Well, you think I got it all together? I'm the last person that has it all together, okay? Ask my wife. I don't have it all together. But I can at least recognize that I don't have it all together, and I pray to God for help about it. Don't just say, I'm not afraid, and try and convince yourself of anything. Again, you forget who you're talking to. Obviously, if you're afraid of God, you're afraid of nothing, but come before God. Listen, this is concerning to me, and what about this? I know, but I'm coming to you, therefore I'm recognizing that all these things are futile because it's all in your hands. Have these conversations. This should become the person that you are. And all this has everything to do with the redemption. What you think they aren't taking notes up there as to who is applying themselves towards this and who is going about their business? And I'm telling you that it's even worse for Jews to not be aware of this, because this is our sole purpose. Okay? You understand? This is on our shoulders. Everyone has their role. Our role is to do the tikkun of the Shechina and the tikkun of the world. The Noahites' jobs are to support Israel so that they can do the tikkun. Who benefits from this? Everyone, not just the Jews. This is for the world. Everyone benefits, but everyone has been placed where they have been placed. And if one person does not do their job, it creates a gap. Not everyone can hold up everything. The Ramchal continues. Sorry, that was my thing. The Ramchal continues. Now, this type of pious individual, in addition to serving the eternal, with the aforementioned intent through the observance of the mitzvot, must also, without a doubt, constantly feel the pain over the exile and destruction of the temple, because of the resultant diminution, as it were, of the glory of the Blessed One. And such a person will long for the redemption through which the glory of the Blessed One name will be enhanced. If you pray today, and I know a lot of you are, I know people who are, oh, Mashiach, come already because the world is getting so bad. No, that's the difference between running from or hoping for. You see, if it's bad for you and you want help because your life sucks, self-serving has nothing to do with God at all. You want it for the glory of God, but if you focus on the glory of God, everything else is going to disappear. Just try that. Just stop for a moment. It really all comes down to slowing down and taking a breath and understanding and really coming to terms. You know, meditation is also a very good thing. Just stop for a moment, meditate on something positive every day. How do I serve God better today? And have that conversation with Him in complete silence. Turn off the lights and sit there. Turn off technology. I know it's a distraction all the time. Turn it off. That's why Shabbat is such a blessing. There's no phones. Okay? There's no computer. There's no TV. There's no music. There's nothing. There's silence. Just between you and God, and that's it. I get my best learning done and the best revelations and the best understanding on Shabbat. It's amazing. And then I go with that the following week, and that's what's infused into these teachings. Yeah, so this is where we're at. This is what the words of Elijah that we just read meant when he said to long for and suffer for Jerusalem. He should furthermore pray for the redemption of Israel and the return of the glory of heaven to its former ascendancy. A person may ask, and this we also discussed, and here some of you are thinking, a person may ask, who am I? And of what importance am I to pray about the exile in Jerusalem? Will my prayers bring about the ingathering of the exiles and the burgeoning of the redemption? Now, I've heard these things from Jews and from non-Jews saying, who am I? I'm a simple Jew. I get up, I put on my tefillin, I do this, I do that, and that's it. I'm worried about what is in front of me. I say foolishness. This is exactly the opposite of what all our sages are teaching, and Eliyahu Navi is teaching, and Shlomo HaMelech is teaching, It's not just about what is in front of you. Yes, you can control maybe just within your circle, but you need to understand why you're doing it, right? If you're in a football game, does the running back, I just need to take that step and I'm done. He's got to be aware of everything that goes around. I'm now currently in a football game. Oh, I got the ball. They're trying to kill me. I got to get it past that line. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? We are all technically players, right, in this game, but it's not a game, okay? It's very, very serious. Nevertheless, you have to be fully aware of the teams, who is on what side, where the line is, right? What direction to run in. Otherwise, you could run in circles. You ever see those experiments where they blindfold people and they tell them to swim in a straight line, swim across the lake, and no one ever makes it? You start swimming in circles because you're not aware of your surroundings. I'm just going to swim. I'm just going to swim, and it's good. It's good. And they're in circles and circles until they, have to be rescued because they're exhausted. Same concept, okay? Jew, Gentile, open your eyes. Be very much aware of your surroundings. You know who I'm talking to right now? Yes, you do. I love you. That's who I'm talking to. Thank you. The answer is close at hand and has been taught in Masechet Sanhedrin 37a. Here's an answer for your question. Who am I? For this reason, Adam was created singly, so that each person would say, the world was created for my sake. Bishvili nivra olam. It pleases God when his children supplicate and pray for this, meaning I can make a difference because you breathe, right? You're here, right? God did this for you. That means you are here. That means you have an opportunity to be with God forever. But what are you doing with that opportunity? And although the time may not be right, they still continue, even if the time is not right, although it might not be right for their requests to be granted, nonetheless, they will have done their share, and the Holy One, blessed be He, rejoices over this. You want to make God happy? Even though nothing you do will change? I mean, people during the Holocaust, what were they not praying for God to save us, help us? We believe in you, we want to bring back your glory, right? There are those that said, help us, save us, of course, and those are on a higher level, say, okay, Hakol Tova, this is terrible what's happening right now, but okay, you must have a plan and we trust in you. God rejoices over this, okay? So says the Ramchal. Don't argue with me. Sorry, not the Ramchal. This came 2,000 years before, Masechet Sanhedrin 37a. But the Ramchal quotes this, so they are in agreement. You want to make God happy? You want to make God rejoice, i.e. you want to give God joy? Do this. And I don't want to hear from anyone that your prayers don't matter. I don't want to hear from anyone that you are worthless. What, because you're not a Jew, you're not a person, you're not a human being? God did not breathe a breath of life into you? Come on, please. I despise that kind of speech. Really. Are you making yourself a doormat on purpose? Don't do this. That's not who you are. Because if you continue to do this, then how are you going to get up to the next level if you keep lowering yourself? But on the other hand, the absence of this led to the prophet's loud protest, Isaiah 59:16. And he saw that there was no man, and he was astounded, for there was no intercessor, and his arm saved for him, and his righteousness that supported him. Vayira ki ein ish vayishtamem ki ein mafgia v'tosha lo zro v'tzidkato hi samachteu. God did it for himself, for his own sake, because no one was there to do this. And also in 63:5, and I looked, and there was no one helping. And I was astounded, and there was no one supporting. And my arm saved for me, and my fury that supported me. And again in Jeremiah 30:17, for I will bring healing to you. And of your wounds I will heal you, says the Lord, for they called you an outcast, that is Zion, whom no one seeks out. I see, it's back there. I see Tzion today, I see Zion today, and where is anybody doing anything, right? What, are we going to go out and protest? Are we going to go burn some buildings down? No, that's not what we do. That's what they do. That's what they want us to do. But that's not what we do. We get ourselves right in here. Bishvili nivra olam. For my sake the world was created. So do you understand what kind of power you are? You are a nuclear reactor. That's what you are. Of biblical proportions. With the spiritual magnitude that can shake the heavens. What are you doing with that? That's what I'm saying. If you have positive thoughts, you lift things up. If you have negative thoughts, especially about yourself, you lower yourself down. Okay? Our sages of blessed memory who commented in Masechet Sukkah 41a, we may infer from this that one needs to inquire after it. We are therefore obligated in this matter, and we cannot absolve ourselves from this obligation simply because our effort is of insufficient strength. Just because I can't do this does not mean that we should not try, because that's all we are called to do. Try. No one said succeed. Like we said, that is entirely up to God. But the effort that you put into it is the effort that you put into it, and no one can take that away from you. In reference to something of similar nature, we are taught in Pirkei Avot 2:16. It is not your duty to finish the work. Thank you, sages. It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. We are links in a chain. If a link is weak, the whole thing falls apart, and that's why every generation has its super righteous who kind of pick up the slack, who under their covering, they're able to sort of spiritually cover for those that are lacking. What happens when all the tzaddikim disappear? And the prophet further states, Isaiah 51:18, she has no guide out of the sons she bore, and she has no one who takes her by the hand out of all the sons that she has raised. And in 40 verse 6, a voice says, call, and it says, what shall I call? All flesh is grass, and all its kindness is like the blossom of the field. Our sages commented on this into Tikkunei Zohar 30. They said, any benevolence, they perform is for their own sake. Speaking of, it says the Gentiles over here. Any benevolence they perform is for their own sake, for their own benefit and pleasure, without concern for the perfection of the aforementioned intentions. Furthermore, the Gentiles do not seek the ascendancy of his glory and the redemption of Israel, for it is not possible for the heavenly glory to be enhanced without the redemption of Israel and the enhancement of Israel's glory. The one is absolutely tied to the other, as it states in Tana Devei Eliyahu, and grieves for the glory of the Holy One, blessed be He, and the glory of Israel. Now, when it says here that the Gentiles, we're talking about the idolatrous nations, those that believe in other religions. Straight up. They don't know what they believe in, and those that don't, look at the rest of the world today. That's why, when I'm speaking right now to Noahides, why are you a Noahide and not a Gentile? Because you recognize the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you have the 7 Noahide laws, and you support Israel any which way you can. Good for you, good for us, thank you very much. We're in the same team right now. You do not fall into that category because you know who you pray to and you know why you're praying. Okay, now listen to what the Ramchal says in Adil B'Marom, page 37. Now write this down. You must know that the main function that a man must do is to focus all his walk and his ways for the rectification of the Shechina. And this is the secret from the verse in Psalms 119, 126, Et la'asot la'Hashem heferu toratecha. A time to do for the Lord, they have made void your Torah. Okay, I'll say that again, just again. The main focus, the main function that a man must do is to focus all his walk and his ways for the rectification of the Shechina. Okay? Okay. Mishkan, Shechina, build me the Mishkan, build me a temple, and I will dwell. That's the house for the Shechina is the Mishkan. It is the happiest time in Israel. So let me explain this, okay? Because this is important. In fact, it's so important that it should encompass everything that you do, because it encompasses our lives as Orthodox Jews. This is what we do. This is what we're supposed to do. And I'll tell you right now, I grew up not knowing about this stuff. In modern Orthodoxy, I don't know who knows this, who doesn't. I'm sure there are those that do. But generally speaking, I wasn't raised like this. Not to take away anything from my parents, of course. It's how they were raised and so on and so forth. But thank God that I went through what I had to go through in order to get to this. And now I'm sharing this with you. This is the reason you wake up in the morning. This is the reason that you eat. And this is the reason that you rest at night. You get up in the morning because you are alive. And if you are alive, that means that you have work to do. The reason you eat is not for the sake of getting full, I'm hungry, oh no, I'm not hungry anymore. But for the sake of sustaining you physically in order for you to do God's work. You dig? And the reason you sleep is so that you can rest and rest your physical being and then get up the next day and keep going. This is the reason for everything. When God created the world, he completed it 99.9%. It would have been 100% complete. If it were 100% complete, he would not have told Adam in Genesis 2:15, now the Lord God took the man and he placed him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to guard it. If everything is 100% complete, there's no more work. There's no more guarding. What do you got to do? Adam got to work. Get work, man, okay? If everything was completely perfect, no more work would have to be done. But God gave man the opportunity to co-create with him so that he will be with God together forever. This is what I told you before. That means man, not just Jew. Man, everyone has a job to do. This is also the concept of male and female. God would be, again, now you got to watch me because a lot of people will take this the wrong way. God would be male and the Shechina would be female. Okay? This is not to be taken literally, please. This is according to how God created everything in this world. As it says in Genesis 1:27, and God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Everything, if all the trees and the animals, min lemino, zachar v'nekeva bara otam, male and female, he created them. That's why everything in the world today, they're trying to undo what God did. Male is female, female is male. I am neither. I feel like an alien in a spaceship today. No, today I'm a dolphin and a mermaid. Okay, good for you. You understand? Everything in the world today is trying to undo this. You could see how they're getting desperate. That means that we're close. Everything created has male and female properties as well as polar opposites. For everything technically good, there's also a polar opposite bad. Day, night, light, dark, and so on and so forth. And Isaiah, I did all these things. I created good, I formed good, I created evil, and all that. But again, do not confuse the creator with his creation. This is what the other guys do. Oh yeah. No. Creator and his creation. God is above anything that we can possibly imagine, which is why he gave us things to relate to according to the order that in which he made us. It's these breadcrumbs. So when Adam sinned and fell from the highest heights to the lowest low, our world, since that point we have been working our way up to complete that 0.1%, 0.01% correction that God left open for our sakes. It's for us. Build a Lego castle. Just put the last thing on top. That's it. That's what we got to do. That's what we're doing. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob have made the correction for Adam. David has completed the fourth leg to solidify Malchut, while Mashiach ben Yosef and ben David are going to culminate this entire process. That's why the name Adam was given to Adam, right? Adam. Now, Adam, again, it's a problem. In English, you think Adam and Eve, but Adam is man and woman, male and female. He created them. Adam, zachar v'nekeva bara otam. So, today when we say mankind, excuse me, it's humankind, right? You know that person, you know what side they belong on, not on your side. It's mankind, specifically because man is male and female. That's what that is. Adam is Aleph, Daled, Mem, okay? Aleph, Adam, Daled, David, Mem, Mashiach. Adam, David, Mashiach. This is from the name Adam. Now, I'm going off topic a bit, but it's still relevant, so listen. You need to know these things anyway. The letter Aleph is made up of 3 letters, right? It's 2 Yuds and a Vav. Aleph is Yud and Vav and Yud, okay? Abraham and Jacob, they represent the 2 Yuds. Isaac represents the Vav. That's your Aleph. They did a tikkun for the Aleph. Now the Dalet is the 4th letter in the alphabet, right? That's 4. As well as the 4th leg of the Merkava, the chariot of God. So you have Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, and then coming down to Malchut. They created the chariot of God. You remember your charts? Look at your charts. And the letter Mem, and what else? Dalet is Dalet. We discussed that in Yehuda. The Yud K Vav K, the door to God is Yehuda, is Judah. And the letter Mem actually represents both Mashiachs because the way you spell it out is Mem Mem, right? To spell out the letter Mem is Mem and an open Mem and a closed Mem. Mem Mem, 2 Mashiachs. Ben Yosef, Ben David. And I'll give you something else. Moses is going to help raise them, if you will, because like we read in Deuteronomy, there has never been or never will there be anyone as humble as Moses, nor a prophet as high as Moses. Incidentally, as far as humility goes, David was only second to Moses in humility and Ruach HaKodesh. That's right, Holy Spirit that Allah claimed dwells inside them. David was second only to Moses. So when Moses and Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David are here, we have 3 mems. Each mem has the numerical value of 40, making them 120, which is how long Moses lived. So that's 10 sfirot for each of the 12 tribes, 120, and this is also how the correction is going to be completed, spiritually speaking. So let's get back to the Shechina, right? Where is the Shechina today? The Shechina dwells with all who are Israel, not on the outside who still have to come in, but with those who are in, whether they are Torah observant or not, believe it or not. And since we are in exile, so is the Shechina, right? If you read Psalms 137 by the rivers of Babylon, that's the Shechina crying with the angels. How can we sing a song on this foreign land? Our captors are making us sing this. Now David wrote this well before it took place, but the Shechina was sent into exile, right? We read this, which is why the more holy sparks come in, the closer we get. Nevertheless, both Jew and Gentile have the obligation to rectify the Shechina through the laws that God gave us, you as an individual. The 7 Noahide laws for the Gentiles and the 613 for Israel. And that is also why I say, if you have not converted, don't you dare, because that is disobedience. And if you have any questions as to what you can or cannot do, please, that's what I'm here for, and I'll give you the sources of where this is, okay? Convert properly, then you can do your part if that is what you are called to do. Because until you do, the Torah has not been given to you, right? It's not. This is reality. You understand? Okay. The Ramchal continues in the letters of the Ramchal, Igrot Ramchal, number 89. There are 2 types of love: the love of God and the love of the Shechina. The love of God resides in all the devoted ones of Israel who keep and guard God's word and commands in truth and revere every single mitzvah, who remove themselves from evil and who do good. We're not there yet. But the love of the Shechina is the yearning and desire to rectify her according to her levels, and this love is the chosen love for God from all the deeds that man has done. Therefore, everything we do is for the Tikkun Shechina. That's right. Remember what we said before? This is what you need to do, and this is what gives God great joy. So do you understand? If we are God's children, then the Shechina is our mother, okay? And God's wife, who stuck her neck out for us and was sent away because of her misdeeds. But wait, okay, so sounds crazy, right? Read Isaiah 50 verse 1. So says the Lord, where is your mother's bill of divorce that I sent her away? Or who is it of my creditors to whom I sold you? Behold, for your iniquities you were sold, and for your transgressions your mother was sent away. This is the Shechina. But guess what? If the Shechina resides on every one of Israel, and the Shechina unites with God, Israel unites with God, they are one and the same. You see that the Shechina is just a form of protection. You get it? Okay. See, anyone comes with replacement theology that God give them this and tell them to shut the hell up. Okay, so I hope you are at least beginning to get an idea of our collective responsibility here. Now, furthermore, the Ramchal continues back in the path of the just. There is, however, a second rationale behind the virtue of piety, chasidut. This comes from chesed, like Avraham, and that is the concern for the good of the generation, right? There's just so much you can do and focus on there, but you need to do that through this as well. For it is befitting that the actions of a pious person should be directed towards the good of his entire generation to enhance their standing and to shield them from punishment. This is expressed in Isaiah 3:10. Praise the righteous man, for he is good, for the fruit of their deeds they shall eat. Meaning that the entire generation partake of the fruit of the righteous. Similarly, our sages have said in Masechet Baba Batra 15a regarding Numbers 13:20. Numbers 13:20 says, Are there any trees there or are there not? Right? What is the soil like in this fat of land? This is when they came back. The spies. Are there any trees in it or not? You shall be courageous and take from the fruit of the land. It was the season when the first grapes began to ripen. Okay, so what is this? Are there any trees there or not? Meaning, is there anyone who shields this generation the way that trees give shelter? And note that it is the will of the divine presence that the pious of Israel should transmit merit to and atone for the other strata around them. So, you see, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. If God, Parker, Spider-Man, not the other one, if God has elevated you to a certain level, that means that anyone below you is your responsibility. Anyone next to you or below you is your responsibility. And therefore, a righteous person who does not pray and intercede for their generation, by default, is not righteous at all. This is what is said by our sages with reference to the four species. Arbat Aminim, right? Like the one we just had on Sukkot. In Vaikra Rabbah 30, verse 12, it says, Let these come and atone for these. Now, this is very cool, and I know we discussed this before. I believe it was in last year's Sukkah Punch, right? Yeah. The four species cover all the people. You have the lulav, right? The lulav, which has no taste and no smell, but it provides shade. In fact, that's what we have to put on top of our sukkot. We have the arava. It has no taste. It has a taste, but no smell, although people make tea of it. The hadas, I think that's myrtle, has smell, but no taste. And you have the etrog, the big lemon-looking thing. It has both taste and smell. Now, I'm sure we know at least one person in our lives of these categories, right? Right, okay. In other words, everyone is different, everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and yet we're called to tie them all together, and this is the only way, ele betamar, like we said. And this is why we are called by God to tie them together, because they all need each other, be it for elevation or to take responsibility. The Holy One, blessed be He, does not desire death of the wicked. Rather, it is incumbent upon the pious to try and enhance their standing and to atone for them. This has to be done by means of one's intent. What is behind every single action that you do all the time when serving the Eternal, as well as directly through one's prayer? So when you're praying, are you just running through and reading the prayers? What is behind every prayer? This means that he should pray on behalf of his generation, seeking atonement for those who need atonement, urging repentance for those who need it, and promoting the defense of the entire generation. So let's say you don't know anyone who's wicked. You don't know anyone who needs any kind of atonement. First of all, fantastic. Where are you living? But second of all, pray for that. God, listen, I'm going to say these Psalms right now for this and that reason. But we'll get to it. Hold on. So that's it for the Ramchal on this matter at this time. Our sages already said in Masechet Yoma 77a regarding the verse in Daniel 10:12. Va'ani bati bidvarecha, and I have come because of your words, right? Fear not, Daniel. And he said to me, the angel Gabriel, the man Gabriel, said to Daniel, fear not, Daniel, for since the first day that you set your heart to contemplate and to fast before your God, your words were heard. And I have come because of your words. Wow. The angel Gabriel came to assist Israel because of the tzaddik of that generation. Daniel was the righteous guy of that generation. How did he assist? By telling Daniel how to move forward. Okay, here's what you got to do. The same thing with Gideon that we learned, Judges 6:14. And the Lord turned toward him and said, go with this, your strength, and save Israel. You got what it takes. You are now interceding for Israel. You got my backing. Go and do it. From the hand of Midian have I not sent you. If God sends you to go do it and says you could do it, that means you could do it. That means you are worthy of it being done through you. Why did these two men receive divine assistance and assurance? Because they did their job and interceded for their generation. This shows us that God loves whoever loves Israel. And the more a person's love for Israel increases, so too does the love of God towards that person, Jew or Gentile. And these are the true shepherds of Israel, whom God desires greatly, who give of themselves for his flock and labor for their safety, security, and goodness in all the ways possible. You know, there's a museum here in Jerusalem, Tzadikei Umot HaOlam, dedicated to all the righteous Gentiles who risked their lives and everything they had to save Jews in the Holocaust. These people are tzaddikim. These people, they save God's children. Where do you think they're right now? They're in the Garden of Eden with all the other tzaddikim. This is amazing what our sages are telling us here. If you support Israel, go. You think God doesn't see it? What is this likened to? Our sages continue. To a father who loves a person who sees that that person loves their son, truly and honestly. And this is something that we can see in the world today. In other words, this is a legitimate thing, right? This next part is taken from Tikkunim Chadashim LaRamchal. Now, I have the book here because there's something I want to read from this book. Okay, so this is the Tikkunim Chadashim LaRamchal. I'm going to read the part to you because I told you that this was, we'll get to that. But basically, before I start reading this book, which is the continuation of the Zohar, this focuses on the last thing, I'm just going to read to you the opening prayer so you'll have an understanding. And this is in Aramaic. Leshem ichud kudsha brichu ushchinete. Leshem, for the sake of ichud, unification, kudsha brichu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy and Blessed be He, ushchinte, and His Shechina, bedichelu urechimu, in fear and mercy, urechimu dechilu, and mercy and fear, both, leyachada Shem Yud Hey bevav Hey, to unite through the name of the Yud, the Hey, and then the Vav and the Hey, Beyuchuda Shalem, in a complete unity, Beshem Kol Israel, in the sake and for the name of all Israel. And now you're going to apply, what am I doing? Hine anachnu ba'im, here we are coming, la'asok betikun hashchina, we are coming to deal with the tikkun, the rectification of Shechina Kedosha, of the Holy Shechina, al yedei shiv'im tikkunim, by these 70 corrections, Chadashim, LeRabbeinu HaRamchal, for our Rabbi the Ramchal, De'inun Mashach Rabo de Nagid Mechochmas Tima, who received these from a Nagid. This is through Elijah and other angels that he received this. Now, Ubahem, and through these words, Yizku Israel leGeula Shlema, Israel will merit a complete Geula, ולשבירת ולהכנעת עין שרי אומות העולם תחת השכינה, and to the breaking and the submission of the 70 Sarei Umot, the supernal angels. Every nation has an angel, right? The prince of Persia and Edom's got the Satan and so on and so forth. Underneath the authority of the Shechina, ulegirush ulebitul hasitra achra min haolam, to the cancellation and the sending away of the sitra achra, the dark side, from the world. Vetachzor ha'atara leyoshna. Atara is also atara. It's like a crown, and the glory should come back to where it was. Chadesh yamenu kekedem. Even desalkin la ad ein sof. It's like a rock that you throw it and that never comes back. Veitgale hayichud ha'elyon, and the supernal yichud, the supernal unity, will be revealed. Beviat Mashiach tzidkenu, when Mashiach our tzaddik comes. Le'enei kol chai, in the eyes of all that are living. Yiru'u einenu, our eyes will see. Veismach libenu, and our hearts will be glad. Bimera beyamenu, amen, amen, amen. Right? והמשכילים ייזהרו כזוהר הרקיע ומצדיקי הרמים ככוכבים לעולם ועד. This is the verse from Daniel, right, that we read. Anyway, this is going to be relevant soon enough. Right now I'm reading from this, but you'll understand. Okay. So we have now Tikkunim Chadashim LaRamchal, the new corrections of the Ramchal. So just a quick background on this book. The Tikkunei Zohar were written about 2,000 years ago by the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and it's all part of the Zohar. But those are the 70 corrections of the Zohar for the first verse of the Torah, i.e. Genesis 1. While the new Tikkunim of the Ramchal, written around 300 years ago, so 2,000 years ago, 300 years ago, are the 70 corrections on the last verse of the last book of the Torah, i.e. Deuteronomy 34:12, L'kol hayad hachazaka. Both men were taught by ministering angels as well as Elijah the prophet. These books are linked to one another. It's amazing. Anyway, in the 6th correction, it says, and all the strong hand and all the great awe which Moses performed before the eyes of Israel. This is Deuteronomy 34:12. L'chol hayad hachazaka u'lechol hamora hagadol asher asa Moshe le'enei kol Yisrael. Also, we said the first name in the Torah, first word in the Torah is Bereshit. At first, the last one is Israel. At first, there was Israel. This is the whole Torah. This is what you need to know. So this is the Mishkan that Moses erected in the wilderness, to which it was said in Exodus 29:45, V'shachanti betoch bnei Israel, va'iti lahem le'elohim. And I dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and I will be their God. This has been hallowed by God's glory. And the holiness of the Mishkan, which is the place for the Shechina, is dependent upon God uniting with it to be a dwelling place for the king. So when Israel gave everything they had, until Moses had to tell them to stop, right? So Moses, okay, we got it, we're good. It was them causing God to unify with the Shechina. They gave everything they had for the sake, literally, physically, right? And also spiritually as well. So you see, the Shechina is exclusively with Israel and not any other nation on earth. This we saw that at first, even the Erev Rav, or all the other nations that were encamped outside of Israel, they had an opportunity, but they did not participate. And then afterwards, because they caused the Egel HaZahav, the golden calf, but then afterwards it says only every man from Israel, not the world, not the nations, Israel. So, if you are not of Israel and you want to partake in this, support Israel who are supporting this. See? That's how it works. As written in Exodus 35:10, and every wise-hearted person among you shall come and make everything that the Lord has commanded. That the Lord has commanded, as in not what I feel, but what God said. Make everything. This was done for the sake of Israel. These are the righteous that are doing the corrections for the Shechina and not for their own sake. This is why the wise-hearted were called. Right? Some people do not understand what is going on. Some people do not understand what I am saying here. Wise-hearted, called, that's it. No, I'm not being arrogant. Straight up, these are words of Torah. Like, you can't even argue with this. Okay, anyway. So, and only the wise-hearted came, because who are the wise-hearted in the end? Only Israel. And who were the wise-hearted? Every last one of Israel came. There was not a single one of Israel who was left out. And who was the greatest among them? The one who was equal to all of them put together. The one who God said, I will wipe them out and start anew with you. That would be Moses, because he did what it took all of them together to do. Exodus 40:18. Moses set up the Mishkan, placed its sockets, put up its planks, put up its bars, and set up its pillars. And Moses did this for 7 days. In other words, everything that everybody did, he was the one that was concluding it all. And what was he doing for all these 40 years? Everyone did their part, and it couldn't have worked any other way. But it was Moses who had to complete it all in order for it to be complete. It's the same thing, all the tshuva that we do and everything that we do, once the two Mashiachim come here with Moshe Rabbeinu, the final tikkun takes place and everything is done. We gave our part, just like Israel, we come, we give our gold, our silver, our clothing, our time, our efforts, our prayers, our everything. We give our everything in abundance until Moses says, enough. We got it, noted, you guys are awesome. Like you weren't doing it just because. You're doing it because we got it from here. Thank you. Now's that time to erect the Mishkan. So what about these wise-hearted individuals? How to work with them? Exodus 31:6. And all the wise-hearted into whose hearts I have instilled wisdom. This wisdom is the Shechina. Because when Israel are united with the Shechina, then God is the one who gives of his supernal wisdom. When we do what we're supposed to do, all of a sudden we see things that the guy next to us doesn't see, because this is directly from God. So it's not just about the deeds, now is it? It depends on the pureness of the heart of he who is doing the deeds, correctly, of course. Like I said, for instance, if you put on tefillin, but your tefillin is lagging to the side, or it's too low, or it's too high, it's not even the thought that counts. It's really not, because it's plain and simple. It's like if you take a socket and you plug it, you try to plug it into the wall, and you plug 2 instead of 3, you're not going to get the electrical charge needed. And it's not the thought that counts. You got to plug it in properly. Same thing with doing the right thing, placing in the right places, and everyone doing the right thing. In that case, it's not the thought that counts. Okay, it's the do what is clearly very simple for you specifically to do, and it will count. Okay. As said in Isaiah 1:12, when you come to appear before me, who requested this of you? To trample my courts? Who requested this of you? It's not what you want. It's what I want, how I want, and when I want. Obedience, right? Do you want to stand before God and have him ask you, who told you to do that? No, you don't. You want to do what you are called to do. Jeremiah 9:22-24. Thus says the Lord, let not the wise man boast of his wisdom, right? We said, because all the wisdom that you get, that God could take it away, and what are you left with? Only your deeds and how you use them. Nor the strong man boast of his strength, nor the rich man boast of his riches. These are the 3 gifts that God gives every man, right? Wisdom, strength, and riches. What are you going to do with it? But let him that boasts exult in this, that he understands and knows me. This is all we can boast about, how well we know God. And again, not publicly, privately, and not even privately, but just delight in. For I am the Lord who practices kindness, justice, and righteousness on the earth. For in these things I delight, says the Lord. What kind of relationship do you have with me? I'll boast for you. Don't worry about it. Behold, days are coming, says the Lord, when I will punish every circumcised one with uncircumcision. This goes for everyone. I'm not picking on any particular group here, okay? No one is safe. But it's also interesting how V'pakadati al kol mul be'orla, everyone who is circumcised with uncircumcision, not and with the uncircumcised, but with uncircumcision. In other words, I might reverse what went down over there. But Daniel 12:3 says, and the wise will shine like the brightness of the sky. What do we just read? The final verse over there in Tikunei Aramchal. V'amaskilim yazhiru kazor ha'ki u'metzdekei harabim kekochavim le'olam va'ed. And the wise will shine like the brightness of the sky, and those who bring the multitudes to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. Those who bring the multitudes to righteousness. These are the wise-hearted who help rectify each and every one of Israel. Great. What are you doing with the talents that God gave you? We don't truly comprehend the power of these individuals, who can be anyone of Israel, mind you. Because what we are going to learn later in our classes, that these individuals have the ability to rectify even the Erev Rav. That's right, the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, these hearts of darkness, these tzaddikim can do that, which is the work that, who started this? Joseph actually started this. And Moses continued it. And because they came out, because Moses stood up for the Erev Rav, that's why Moses did not enter Israel. That's why the sin of the golden calf took place, because of the Erev Rav. But at the end of the day, even the Erev Rav, not all of them, but some of the Erev Rav are going to have to be corrected. So we know the Erev Rav are the worst, right? Okay, so what did we say in last class? The ability to turn darkness into light. Not everyone can do that. But the Rashbi specifically can, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because he brought us the Zohar. This is that good first light of creation. That is the ability to turn darkness into light. This is a form of the creation of creation that some will be able to have. And in other places it says it's Moses and the two Mashiachim will do that, and Matzdikei Rabim. They will also make the others shine and righteous. And this is where we will all stand, God willing, in their presence. Every wise-hearted man and woman who understands that we are all connected, that we all need one another. This is not the Hollywood love that they're all selling you in the world today. That is a lie. That's why marriages fall apart, because people are told what love is. I love you today, hate you tomorrow. Where is your foundation? So I say, why not learn it from the Master of the universe? Let's learn what love is from God, what brings God joy, how He loves His children to become from a servant to a son. You want to know what true love is? Get to know God. Do what He says, when He says it, and how He says it. Do this to the best of your ability, without strain or contempt or seeking reward. Without strain or contempt or seeking reward. Without strain or contempt or seeking reward. You will likely fall. Well, we said every righteous person does. But it's up to you to get back up, because that's what really counts. You have to stay in this fight. It's an endurance thing. It's a marathon. Homework. Every day, for the rest of your lives, every time you do a mitzvah, every time you say a bracha, you do a good deed, a selfless act, anything. Before you do it, I want you to make this declaration. I want to do this for the sake of the rectification of the Shechina. Okay? Now, we might not believe what we're saying or even fully understand what we're saying, but it will come to us eventually, which is why we said, I want to, and not, I am doing this for the sake of the rectification of the Shechina. Okay? Because that would be an untrue statement. So in Aramaic, we said, Leshem yichud kudsha brichu. I'll give you an example. When we daven, when we start with Shacharit, right, the prayer in the morning, we start L'Shem Yichud Kudsha B'Richu Shechinateh Hineni Bal Lekem Mitzvat Aseh Shetiken Avraham Avinu Shei Tfilat Shacharit. I can't find it right. Oh, Tikun Chatzot. Excuse me. I'm finding this right now. Parashat HaKorbanot Shacharit. Almost there. Here we go. L'Shem Yichud Kudsha B'Richu Shechinateh, for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His Shechina, B'dichilu Rechimu, in fear and mercy and fear, to combine the four letters, Yichudah Shalem B'Shem Kol Yisrael, for the sake of all of Israel. Hine anachnu ba'im litpalel tfilat shacharit. Here we now are coming to daven shacharit. Shetiken Avraham Avinu, who Avraham Avinu tiken, he wrote tfilat shacharit. Alav Shalom, im kol mitzvot haklulot ba, with all the mitzvahs that are in it, letaken et shorsha b'makom elyon, to fix that in the upper levels of his root, la'asot nachat ruach leyotzrenu, to give nachas and joy to our Creator, ve'la'asot retzon boreinu, and to do His will. We have this for Mincha, we have this for Mariv. After Shabbos on the fourth meal, and in Shabbat we have 3 meals. There's a Friday night, there's Shabbos lunch, and there's Suda Shlishit, that's for Yaakov against Gog and Magog. So the Friday night is Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and then right after Shabbat, we have a 4th meal for who? For David, because he was the 4th one, Adam David Mashiach. L'shem yichud kudsha b'richu shchinateh b'dechilu, and so on. Hine anochi ba lis'od Suda Revi'it, the 4th meal, Shel Shabbat, even though Shabbat is out, lelavot et hamalka, lelavot is to escort the queen, ulelavot et hanefesh ha'yetera sheba, and to escort the extra nefesh that is in her. That's why in Shabbat we get the best downloads, because in Shabbat we get a nefesh yetera, we get a higher spirit over there connecting us. Hamistaleket ata, who is now leaving us, we're escorting her out with this 4th meal. Ulashir baracha bechol seudotenu, to leave a blessing with all our meals, b'sheshet yamei achol, throughout the 6 days. Ulashir bahen mikdushat Shabbat, and to leave from it some of the kedusha, the holiness from Shabbat. Uvechen bechoach sgulata, and in the merit of doing this, shamrenu keishon bat ayin, protect us like the circle of the eye, the iris of the eye, ubetzel knafecha tastirenu, in the wings of your, within your wings you will block us and keep us safe. V'hoshienu, and save us, mitzar chibut hakever. For chibut hakever is a whole nother. It's the judgment of what happens when you die and you get taken to the grave, that whole walk. That might be another class, but I'm not there yet. I'm still working on that. V'tashkin et nafshenu, tashkin from Shechina, and save our nefesh, u'chenu v'nishmatenu, our ruach and our neshama, b'mishkenot miftachim, in safe places. Okay, so everything that we do, l'shem ichud kudsha b'richu shchinateh, for the sake of God connecting with the Shechina through fear and mercy and fear. But what we're going to say, again, these are very specific players, you don't mess with that. What you are going to say is, I want to do this for the sake of the rectification of the Shechina, because this we are correcting Adam's mistake. Adam is an Adam, all of us, okay? So now when you say this, before you do a mitzvah, I want you to imagine all the sounds of Israel saying thank you, okay? Because really this is what you're doing. Now you have this new level of consciousness. Every time you want to read Psalms, I'm doing this, I want to do this for the rectification of the Shechina. Because when you rectify the Shechina, by default Israel gets rectified, because the Shechina is now dispersed where all of Israel is. I want to rectify the Shechina, and when the Shechina is rectified, this is the ingathering. Now we have the Yichud of Kudsha B'richu Shechinateh. This is how it works. So all of Israel and all the heavenly hosts and the Master of the universe is saying thank you when you do this, when you have this focus. Because like I said, you guys are walking spiritual nuclear reactors. You have this power. Believe it. God created the world for you. Here you are. Use what you have. Let me be the first to say thank you for saying this. I really do appreciate it. I'm not just saying this, you know this. Okay. That's as far as this teaching goes. But there's something very important that I have to share with you. Speaking of the souls of Israel, there's something very important that I feel that I must emphasize. Like I said, some of you don't get it. This might be the last chance that I'm trying. So anyway, so may I have some more of your attention, please? I know it's been a long class. It's been long for me too. We're almost done. Hi. My name is Tamir, and I teach Torah. I am not a rabbi. I simply teach Torah. I'm a Jew teaching Torah from Jerusalem, Israel. I'm not teaching Jesus. I'm not teaching the New Testament, just Torah. Untainted, unadulterated, pure Torah. I am not a righteous man by any means. I've been living in filth and sin for most of my life, and I've been making the corrections and the tshuva for it every single day. God gave me my wife as a complete and utter gift, like I said, because I still don't know how I was deserving of her, which is why I have to be as real as possible. If this is where I am and I do not speak truth, oy vavoy li. My true opportunity for tshuva and tikkun, correction, began only when we got married. I know I was going back, I was, teaching Torah, I was still recovering, trying to understand what was going on, often failing, miserably, but I never quit, okay? Now, you might not understand what time it is now, but I have an idea. And you also might not understand how the smallest little things can change everything up there, but I have an idea, I say. Because I'm paying for the way that I lived every single day till this day. Okay? My past has its claws in my nefesh and it wants me back. It also helps me to know which direction to run, right? If I feel that, I run from wherever that is in whatever direction. Okay? Run from, run to. Very important. So, I'm saying this because you need to know, I'm not doing or teaching or saying any of this for fortune, fame, obviously, right? This is not a business to me. These are your souls, and these souls are the lost sparks of Israel. And if anyone is keeping you out, and there are people that are, or feeding you lies, and there are those that are, deceiving you or not giving you the whole truth, this becomes a problem for me, for all of us. So I'm going to say this one time because on Sunday, God willing, we will start our next level sessions on Zoom. Okay, so this is what we discussed a few weeks ago. Don't worry, it's not going to affect our teachings here. Anyone could come see these teachings here. The Zooms are something different, okay? There's people who are looking for the next step, who got out completely of idolatry, want to convert, or trying to figure out their places as Noahides and really want to take that next step. Whatever calls to you. Like I said, it could be 1, it could be 100, it doesn't matter. Whoever comes. You are supposed to come and that's it. I can only put out my hands and offer my services. That's it. So, you need to understand these things. Those that want to come in. Okay? Okay. If you are being taught Torah, and within that Torah, you have any kind of teaching or learning from the New Testament, that is not Torah. That is idolatry. If you are attempting to convert, and you are being coached as to how to hide your belief in Jesus to any capacity, you are treading on very dangerous grounds, as you and the person coaching you will answer for such deceit. Not by me, don't worry. Well, worry, because if it was me, it'd be a whole lot easier. If you think that you are receiving a Jewish education, but are watching your rabbi teach whatever on Shabbat, on high holidays, on Yom Kippur, looking all rabbi-like, live streaming, using technology, then that person is breaking Shabbat, breaking Chag, breaking the Torah. That person is not an Orthodox rabbi, and you are being deceived. And if you're thinking right now, well, how else can I be connected to a community? This is all I have. I say, Lech Lecha. What, you thought this was going to be easy? You're going to cruise your way in? Do you know that this is a sad excuse next to anyone who actually took that journey and went through a proper conversion and what they had to go through? You're going to hear all these stories right now, and then you're going to look at where you stand, and you're not going to utter a word because you will be ashamed. Furthermore, if your rabbi teaches anything from the New Testament or about Jesus, he is not an Orthodox rabbi, plain and simple. And if your rabbi teaches that Jesus was not God, not even Messiah, but a rabbi like all other rabbis, or even a poor Jew who was simply misunderstood, that person is not an Orthodox rabbi, and you are being taught idolatry that is infused with Torah. Now, understand that I have to spell these things out because I don't want you to be taken advantage of, because it's still happening. And I know this firsthand. What good are our mistakes or the things that we have gone through if not for others to learn from? So please learn from this. If your rabbi does any of these things, they are not a real rabbi at all. And Messianic rabbis are as real and as legitimate as the joker who calls himself president with 80 million votes. Yeah, it's one. You know what? Call me the Tsar of Israel. Why not? I'll just throw a title over there. A real rabbi needs to have received a smicha, call it ordination, if you will, from a legitimate Orthodox institution, from a tribunal of rabbis who have received their smicha from a legitimate Orthodox institution. And this thing goes back over 2,000 years. In other words, every legitimate rabbi today can trace going back, I got my smicha from this place, who got my smicha from that place, and trace it all the way back 2,000 years. Okay? If your rabbi, Messianic or otherwise, does not have this smicha, and they still allow themselves to be called by that title, they are liars, and you are being had. And if anything I just said doesn't faze you at all, by all means, stay where you are. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm just giving you some information right now that you need to know. Stay where you are, because that is most likely where you need to be. It's okay. But know this, to these individuals that falsely carry this title, to these individuals that are trying to pass the New Testament as any kind of legitimate Torah, who are trying to pass Jesus as anything but a false prophet and an idol, I say shame on them, because they should know better. You see, you think you're out of Christianity, but you learn New Testament doctrines. You think you're out of Christianity, but because you refer to Jesus as Yeshua, you think it matters? Wake up. Time is up. Now, if I haven't made myself abundantly clear on where I stand, again, free country, do whatever you want, really. But this is also where this group is going. I guess this is goodbye, okay? If I haven't made myself clear, if you understand. God is changing lives in these times, more so than at any other period in history. These are exciting and historical times. And it's up to us to choose if we are either of the cursed or of the blessed. And those of you who are stuck in where I just spoke about are simply missing it. There are so many of you who got out. And you have done this on your own, without coercion or manipulation. You saw it for yourself. There's nothing that I could give anyone to read to convince them otherwise. It's not about convincing. You either have it or you don't. You see it or you do not. It's not up here. It's an understanding. That's it. And you know it's real because you shed your previous lives. And here you are. You can clearly see what everyone in your past lives could not see, what everyone around you, even today, probably cannot see. And here you are. You are looking in at the other side of where you used to be, and you cannot believe that you didn't see it. But now that you see it, it can never be unseen. For those of you who got out, and I mean truly out, focus on God and God alone. There is no other than Him. Ki einod milvado. Now, stick around for next week as we discuss the secrets of the Torah. Have a wonderful rest of the week and a Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.